one thing was for sure. They both believed Sparks to be a total tool.
Be an exciting contest which shows that divorced couples can still have fun together, right?
Mythological hero H-list. C. On the spot dice spin.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Some of the greatest shows of all time are revivals that improved on the original formula. For example, shows like the Jim Perry version of Sale of the Century, Password Plus, and the Tom Bergeron version of Hollywood Squares will always have a place in my heart. However, the shows that we're going to talk about right now crushes souls. These are the revivals that people thought were going to be great, but turned out to be utter garbage. And it's time to count them down. Here are the top 5 worst revivals of the past 30 years. Who didn't love the USA Game Show block during the mid-90s? You always had 4 really powerhouse shows such as Pressure Luck, Sale of the Century, Scrabble, and the John Davidson version of Hollywood Squares. Now, there were 2 shows that people thought stood out like a sore thumb. One of them was The Joker's Wild with Pat Finn. The other one was, well, this.
In a moment, the game that intrigued a nation. In a moment, the game of strategy, knowledge, and fun. In a moment, Tic Tac Toe! And now, our host will guide us through the next 30 minutes of Tic Tac Toe, Patrick Wayne!
Thank you. And thank you and welcome to our show. Tic Tac is back.
I do admit, I have a soft spot in my heart for the disaster piece that is the 1990 version of Tic Tac Toe. However, I'm not blinded enough to not see the damage the show did. For starters, Patrick Wayne will probably go down as one of the most mocked game show hosts of all time. I'm still trying to find that one Saturday Night Live sketch where Bill Pullman mocked Patrick Wayne perfectly. There's the music that someone once aptly put it belonged on a kid's infotainment show on PBS, which is a waste of time on part of Henry Mancini. Yes, that Henry Mancini. Finally, there's the most mocked part about the show, the Rapping Dragon. To be honest, looking back at it now, the Rapping Dragon has more flow and rhyming capability than 95% of the rappers out there right now. Also, he's got more street cred than the likes of Future, 2 Chainz, and any other C-grade rapper that Lil Wayne has on employ at Young Money that sucks so bad to make his lazy rapping sound better. But I'm going off topic. Then there's the format itself, which for the most part was thankfully left alone, and the bonus game was a marked improvement over the 70s and 80s version. However, what people didn't like was how the pot was built. In the case of a tie game, when the pot would be anywhere between 4,000 and 5,000, the pot would be reset and the dollar amounts increase. This could theoretically make winning the pot less than the previous one. This happened a couple of times where somebody would win $3,000 off of a tie game, whereas if the pot simply carried over, they would have $6,000 or more. Combined with everything else, it is just a mockery of game shows. And honestly, that's something that could be said about Tic Tac. It's got to be the "this is Spinal Tap" of game shows. Everything down to a host that has to be so fake. The villain of the game being so painful when it wrapped to almost becoming endearing to a point. If Enright wanted to make a mockumentary of a game show, then mission accomplished. I just wish that everyone else had been on the joke. Because of the joke falling flat, the show got negative reviews, and after a couple of months, scuttled off to late night slots, and the show was canceled in March of 1991. Out of all of the shows that we'll be talking about on this list, this is the one show that I would actively seek out. Unlike this next one. I will be honest, I was pumped to see this one come back in 2008, but it hurt my soul. I guess it's reason number 48752 of OSW Reviews Reasons Why Local Cunt Ruins Everything. Thanks, Hulkster!
What?
American Gladiators is one of my favorite shows of the 90s, even goes as far as to record seasons 1 through 3 up of ESPN Classic when they began rerunning them in 2007. The moment came crashing down hard when the duo of Layla Ali and Hulk Hogan came out when the revival debuted. Layla did a good enough job, but dear God was Hogan annoying to sit through. Every time he opened his mouth to chat with the contenders, he'd be like, "Brother, brother, Jack, brother, Hulkamania, brother, brother, dude." The original host put the contestants over during the match, but Van Earl White was the announcer for this one, and he really didn't do a good job. It became readily apparent that all the show did was forget the original show and import the UK version. While the UK version was great because it had the live sports atmosphere and had the untouchable duo of John Fashanu and Ulrika Johnson, the US version was a great blend of actual sports and pro wrestling, and another untouchable duo of Mike Adamle and Larry Zonka. What they did, though, is half-ass the presentation from the UK and just made it like WWE. Really bad mid-90s WWE. Then we get to the Gladiators themselves. For the most part, they were alright, but what I didn't like was how they pigeonholed most Gladiators into singular events, and that's all they did. More often than not, Wolf would be the only one to do Hang Tough. Helga would do Assault, Rocket would do the Wall, and yet no other events, whereas on the older show, almost every Gladiator did every event. Well, except for Tower, who couldn't physically do Hang Tough because he was so tall. Look, there are so many problems with this version of Gladiators, I just need to sit down in a bit and do a full review for this show. It's just another perfect example of how not to modernize a classic. Moving on. We're going to stick with NBC for a bit. Now, in the summer of 2003, this show was originally slated for a 5-episode summer series. However, due to viewer complaints over one spectacular stunt and one really, really bad ratings dip, it only lasted 3 episodes. Alright, let's just get rid of the zonk that's behind door number 3.
These people, dressed as they are, have come to the trading floor of America to play Let's Make a Deal. I'm Vance DeGeneres. Now, here's TV's big dealer, Billy Bush.
Thank you very much. You look so beautiful. Beautiful. Welcome to Let's Make a Deal.
Deal in 2003 was supposed to be this great return of the classic show on the 40th anniversary of the show's debut, and right back where the show started in NBC. It should have been at the very least a serviceable version. Heck, Monty Hall himself is listed as the executive producer. However, I have a feeling that the only reason his name is on the credits is because NBC paid him a boatload. So I doubt he wanted to remember this train wreck whatsoever. For starters, the first deal out of the gate was having female dealers grab something from underneath a man's kilt for a prop. Because, yeah, we need to see the shock value of a dealer fondling a guy's junk on our screens at 8 p.m. Or at least the indication that it was happening. I remember this sending former game show pundit Steve Beverly in a complete rage on his website, and I gotta be honest, I was in complete agreement, although I thought it was just completely stupid. But despite that auspicious opening salvo, the deals themselves, such as the great Dealco stock version, were actively engaging. But I know where this version fell flat on its face. Enter Billy Bush. I don't believe he had any clue on what he was doing with the show or cared about the proceedings for the show. He had what I like to call the Dean Goss style of hosting. When he starts off a deal, he'd be kind of hushed about it, especially when trying to give the contestants money to back off from the deal. But when the big reveal comes, he'll blurt it out like it's the best thing of all time, not letting the actual reveal happen. That's what I absolutely hate about this version. There's no reveal. It just happens in some cases they swerve a lot, making me believe the show was also written by Vince Russo, instead of just a few Hollywood hacks who would later write for WWE in the late 2000s. This is another show that I really just need to sit down and do a full review on as to why it all went horribly wrong. Okay, let's just get to the two obvious ones. Out of all of the revivals out there, People who watched game shows in the 2000s point to these two as the absolute worst. So, which one do I start out with? Well, to quote OSW Review, "Damn it, D-Lo! Don't bet it all on a 10.
If one of these people plays their cards right, they could win over $50,000. It's time for the all-new Card Shark. And now, the host of our show, Pat Bullard.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. What an audience we have today. You guys are terrific.
I was really excited for Card Sharks in 2001. Haven't seen a lot of the Jim Perry and Bob Eubanks version on Game Show Network. Seeing the new show, I couldn't help but hang my head in shame. The only positive I could take away from this is that they didn't stray too far away from the format, as perennial GSG punching bag Pat Bullard said in the premiere. Aside from that mechanic, everything else felt really off. Gone were the interesting poll questions that led to some interesting and often hilarious answers. Gone was any kind of strategy to freeze and try to keep control of the cards. Gone was any drama whatsoever. What also was gone was some of the fairness in the rules. For example, if you get the last card and fail, your opponent doesn't have to do dick in order to win the game. That really bugged me when you could have someone go through the entire board, do well, and get upended by double 2. What made matters worse is that you may have won $2,100, but you know what? That money is instead your stake at the money cards, where you can win less than that if the cards outright blow. I also agree with people that the 3-2-1 pyramid was a bad idea as well. And you know what? There's no need to go any further. I got a full review of this up on the website telling you in exact detail why it sucks. And yes, Pat Bullard still is one of the worst hosts of all time. Even though the show hurt my soul, it was gone in 4 months, so my soul fully recovered. But do I feel for the people who had to suffer through number 1? So what causes this show to be number 1 over Card Sharks 2001 and American Gladiators 2008, Let's Make a Deal from 2003 and Tic Tac Toe 90? It was so divorced from the original shows and added some shady business practices, I can't help but give it number 1. Your number 1, Temptation, the all-new sale of the century.
Our returning champion has $300 temptation dollars, but she's risking it all against 2 new competitors, hoping to win a $10,000 home improvement package or a brand new Toyota Prius. Who will make it to Shopper's Paradise? Will it be our champion? I'm Rossi Morielli, and we'll find out today on Temptation, the new sale of the century.
You can't have a temptation. Can you feel
All right, ladies.
I originally heard about the show coming to light during a random chat with Buzzer Blog's Alex Davis back in 2007. So it was going to come under more of a Wipeout feel than a Jim Perry Sale of the Century feel. I admit that I felt bad for what they were doing, and the feeling was solidified when I saw the preview episodes on my network. There was absolutely nothing about the show that screamed at me Sale of the Century. For starters, it all felt like one gigantic infomercial rather than a game show, especially since in between each commercial break, you'd be treated to Rolando Watts hyping some piece of junk that doesn't work saying, "Oh, you deserve the quality." Also, you could tell that they're going for the stereotypical middle-aged woman who's staying at home with nothing better to do than use her partner's credit card and buy half of the HSN stock. Almost every question was either about shopping or some stupid celebrity gossip, which would only attract a niche audience inside of a niche audience. The only thing that stuck with the original Sale of the Century was the instant bargains. However, instead of them building up to bigger and better things, there are all the usual what women want fares, such as handbags, days of beauty, stuff that only a select few would want to win on a game show. Speaking of what women want, Rossi may look good, but his hosting absolutely sucks rocks. He does have a personality on shows like Sweat and Halloween Wars, but here it's just questions, beg person to buy, questions, lots of love for 20 minutes thanks to a crowded format mixed with speed rounds, a Wheel of Fortune ripoff, a Wipeout knockoff, a This or That ripoff, and a super cheap price budget put this show behind the 8 ball in a big way. Then there's the big reason why this is number 1. The Writers Guild debacle. The show decided to go even cheaper by recording all 170 episodes in a span of 3 or so weeks, making the writing of the show completely crunched. Especially having to come up with 340 knockoff boards, scripting for Rossi and Rolanda, coming up with interesting pop culture and shopping questions for the series in such a quick fashion was a hard task. During said production, the writers wanted to be represented by their union, the Writers Guild of America West. Fremantle didn't want to play ball with the union for unknown reasons, and thus they suffered a massive black eye for their efforts in the forms of picketing and really scathing reviews by critics and fans of the show alike. Some people see this incident as the tipping point that caused the big Writers Guild strike that started in November of 2007. Temptation wouldn't get more than a 0.5 in the Nielsen ratings and would be canceled by the summer. And there you have it. A bad show, a bad host, and bad treatment from the writers is a guaranteed combination to make you say, this is the worst game show revival of the past 30 years. Until next time, bye-bye!